agent or anybody that's in any type of leadership role in my business, you can do the same thing. So what I want to do is I want to explain to them, if you haven't done this before, the first thing you do is create a standard in your contract. Okay? Makes sense? If you've never done this before, you present this, what I'm about to show you, but you first need to create a standard in your contract. So your contract may say, look, our standard is 3 contracts per month, right? And then in 90 days, you have to do this. Does that make sense? Because you can't, if they don't know what the standards are, you can't hold them to it. So you first have to, in the next meeting, you want to create your standards first. Does that make sense to you? So you can't just go, you didn't do 3 transactions, you haven't told me I had to. I don't care, you're fired. We have a new standard here, I'm going to share it. Adam told me I can do this. That's not cool. So what you need to do is you need to go back there and say, look, okay, you know, I apologize to all you guys. I realize that I've been letting you down. I realize that I haven't actually been holding you to the level that I know that you guys can push yourselves to. So my commitment to you is that I'm going to hold everybody to a new standard, including myself. And part of that is to make sure that you and I get on the same numeric language. So I'm going to meet with individually, and we're going to both together agree on a standard, a minimum standard that you and I both agree to, and we're going to sign our names to this. Does that work for you guys? That's as easy as a conversation, but it's your fault, right? Take responsibility for that. Then what you're going to do is, and say your standard is 4 transactions a month closed. Okay, let's just assume that. 4 transactions a month closed. What you're going to do is you're going to ask Ben. Ben's the agent on my team, and I'm going to say, Ben, okay, I'm about to go through this and show you kind of this kind of scale here, right? 10 being like a Gary Keller. Like I don't think anybody can ever be a 10 because that means you stop growing, and I don't think anybody can ever not stop growing, right? So I don't think you can ever be a 10. But 10 is somebody that is just completely revolutionizing, changing your life to the point where it's beyond what you could ever fathom. Right? That's a 10. A 9 in my life, right? A 9 in my life is somebody who's just exceeding at the highest level any standard that I have, any expectation I have, and they're continually doing it. I mean, at the 4, they're doing 10, literally. They added leverage, they're reading books, they're part of this, they're doing community service, they're all these things, right? You get that? That's a 9. Somebody who's exceeding your standard continually. Not in 1 month, continually. So you look at this, right? Okay, that's a 9. 8 is somebody who is exceeding it, 4 standard, they're doing 6. Pretty awesome, right? Somebody doing 72 transactions a year, they're crushing it, right? That's an 8, right? It may not be 6, it may be, if your standard is 4, maybe 5. Still exceeding it, right? A 7 is somebody who is continually meeting the standards that you set up. So if it's 4, they continually hit 4 every single month, day in and day out. You guys get that? A 6 is somebody who is averaging 3 or 2, right? They're not quite there. They're not quite hitting the standard every single month. A 5, again, maybe somebody hitting 2 or 3. Now this zone right here, this zone is all about attitude. This is attitude zone and potential. If somebody's a 4, where do you think they go?
Toilet.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Toilet, yes, that's right. This would be like a brown. You don't really have brown color here. Flushing, right? Yeah. This helps you guys remember it easier. So this is somebody that's doing like 1 or 2 and their attitude probably sucks. Right? So 7 or 8, by the way, this zone, you know what this zone is called? This is your green zone. This is the opportunity zone. The conversation that circulates here is, what is their opportunity? What is their next opportunity? Because somebody that's exceeding this, or constantly hitting your standards, if you don't provide an opportunity for them, they're going to leave. And by the way, how many people have seen teams that people are doing awesome on them, but they never get other opportunities? That becomes a breeding ground for you. Or you become a breeding ground for somebody else. Meaning you've got a lot of good people who are doing great things, but you're too stuck in your own ways to allow somebody else to take over your team or do something right opportunity, and great people continue to leave. The only reason why people leave, if they're the right person, is because you didn't provide them. You weren't seen as a vehicle for somebody's success. Because if you're seen as a vehicle for somebody's success, most people won't leave you. Now, if they leave out of ego because they want their name on the sign, that's something you probably can't control. you have to determine the two. But if you lose somebody that is not egotistic because they don't have the name assigned, it's because you didn't have another opportunity for them. And you didn't see it. Make sense? Okay. By the way, what are you? So here's the thing. If you're going over this achievement by yourself, you need to first rate yourself. Get it? You need to rate yourself here. So if I had a team of 4, or James and Ben are on my team, I would say, okay guys, great. So here's what we're going to do. You guys, do all these numbers make sense to you guys? You guys, okay, great. Here's what we're going to do. We're both scheduled to meet tomorrow. I want you guys to grade yourself. And I want you guys to come in with your grade, with your number of where you think you are at, based on the standards we have on our team. This is why it's really important to make sure that your clarity of your standards has been expressed. Again, if you don't have them yet, you do this in 90 days. By the way, you should be doing this every quarter with your team. So every quarter you go, when you're meeting with them, you go, okay, look, James, next week, don't forget, I want to make sure you and I are on the same page. Please come in and be prepared to rate yourself as to where you are. So let me ask you a question. Where do you think people that are 7s or 8s rate themselves? 5 and 6, absolutely. No, they do. They really rate themselves as 5 and 6s. Now, where do you think people that are 5 and 6 rate themselves? 8s. They're like on a different planet. And by the way, some people that are down here never show up for a meeting. I'm serious. Step up, step down. Or I've had people that have been 4s and think they're 8 or 9. In their own mind, they are a legend. So this is, so you walk them through, you flip it over. By the way, you rate them, they rate themselves. So you rate them, that's okay, your goal is that. And so then you have the conversation. So standard's 4, they're doing 3. Look, Ben, I rated you a 6. Looks like you rated yourself an 8. Looks like we're a little discrepancy. I'm just curious. And look, you don't become egotistical, you don't become anything. You're having a conversation. Ben, I'm interested to see how you came up with the number 8. Because what was our goal per month? Goal 4. Okay, last year, how many did you close? 25. Well, that's not 48. So we have a gap, right? Yeah. Okay. Your attitude's good, by the way. You're doing a great job. I know you're showing up. You're doing the right things. I love that about you. I'm really proud of you for that. You're showing in every day and day and night. But what I really need you to do is I want to work with you specifically. What training does this person need to get them to a 7? Is it scripts? Is it dialogue? Now, if somebody comes and they're a 6 or a 5 and their attitude sucks, the conversation is, look, you should never have to ever fire somebody. You should just release them into the industry by holding your standards. So my conversation with that is I probably wouldn't let Ben go. Conversation would be, Ben, we've done 3. Now, here's what I need to see from you over the next week. I need to see 1 contract next week under contract. Is that something you feel like you can do? Okay, great. So what is it going to happen if you don't hit 1 contract next week? Yeah, typically some people will say that. Other people will say, well, I'm going to prospect a little bit more. He said, I'm off the team. Most people will say, I'm going to prospect a little more. I said, look, that's not acceptable to me. What is going to happen if you don't hit your standard of 1? And then that's when they usually say, well, it's probably not going to work out. Cool. That's the key. Don't let people get off. You have to keep drilling down to the result that you want in that conversation. Don't just think that they say, when I prospect more, in your mind going, yeah, you're off the team. Because that clarity becomes an issue. And a lot of us, the big artists, have a problem being clear. Yes?
Yeah, Jim Rohn said that the number goes in the box.
Yeah, right? I mean, that's a great way. Jim Rohn said that again? He said, Jim Rohn said, a number goes in a box, not a sentence. I like that. Which is true. Does this make sense for you guys? So this is where you want to rate yourself. And then, by the way, you can even rate yourself and say, look, and if somebody's a 7, you say, look, I'm a 6, partly because I'm not holding you highly accountable enough. Or you can say you're a 7. Whatever you want to do, but just feel free to talk about what you're going to be working on too. I've had some people, just as a word of caution, I've had people say, I really don't like delivering myself down to a number. And I said, well, I get that, and I'm not. When you were in school, how were you measured? Grades. So when you're on my team, you're measured by a number. It doesn't mean who you are, it just means that you and I need to have a common language so that we can agree on a standard that's acceptable to both of us. Because people will feel like, in part, because I had especially younger people, if they have this entitlement factor a little bit, and so they're like, I'm a number in your world. No, not really. But you and I need to make sure that we're on the same language, because again, otherwise we're just both emotional. Makes sense? Yes?